Hey, it's Shy. Just resharing a few of our favorite episodes while Lex is out recovering from surgery. Don't worry, she's doing amazingly well and ready to start bringing order back into our world, but just not yet. So until then, here's one of my favorite episodes, episode 3, where Lex shares her journey of learning she was autistic. It's your favorite squirrels, Shy and Lex. It's time for another episode of Black Girl, Brown Girl, Squirrel. Hey, Squirrel.
Hey, Squirrel, hey.
Oh, now you gonna hit me with the squirrel, not the hey friend? Okay, I got
Hey,
you.
listen, one of these days you will stop laughing at me for just existing. One of these days. I'm doing my best, friend. I'm doing my best.
And this is what I mean by you make me laugh even when you are not trying to. You're like, I don't get why you're laughing at me. And
Yeah.
that's one end of the neurodivergent spectrum. And I'm on the other end, like, because it's hilarious. And you're like, why?
Yeah, I have no idea what was funny, but I just roll with it.
It's all good. It's all good. That's why we get along so well. We're back for another episode. In case you don't know us, I'm your host, Shy.
I'm Lex.
And we are your proud host of Black Girl, Brown Girl, Squirrel, a show for neurodivergent women of color. And we're just so happy to be here. So we've been taking some time in the last couple of episodes to talk about our stories when it comes to discovering that we were neurodivergent. And so today we'd like to dive into Lex's story a little bit and to get to know her a little bit more. So Lex, why don't you take us back to when you first thought that you might be neurodivergent?
So the story is interesting because going back all the way to my childhood, I'm talking elementary school on the way through to adulthood to even today, I would know that how I'm thinking, how I'm communicating, how I'm operating in social settings is not what's happening around me.
Mm.
And I wasn't sure why. I couldn't put it into words, especially when I was a kid, but I was just like, this is different. I don't understand what's going on there. And I'm going to have to just be here, not knowing what's happening. I think the first time I saw something, I was like, ooh, that might be what's happening here, is I was in college in my late teens. And I don't know if you ever saw the show Parenthood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that's what that was called. And they had that little boy, Max, I think his name was, and they found out he had autism.
Okay.
And the way autism is usually presented in media is usually a little white boy. The way we would say, we'd be like, that little boy is bad. But they're usually trying, but they're just a little bit confused, a little dysregulated, not sure what's going on. And people around them don't really know how to communicate with them. They've got one weird hobby. It's not weird, it's just theirs, but it's just one hobby, and they don't think about anything else, and they don't have any emotions. So that's kind of an extreme version, but I would see certain things and I'd be like, well, I kind of relate to that part. Like I would see how the kid would react and I'd be like, well, my mama is not going to let me act like that, but I understand why they acted like that in that
Right.
situation. It's funny, in the last episode, we talked about like your experience at school, and you were like, I was good at school except math, and math was where I thrived. I did so good at math. I was like, I'm good at math. I'm great at math. Matter of fact, when I went to college, I thought I was going to be an engineer. Story for another day. I did not do that. Physics is hard. Can't do physics. But the point being, I really thrived in school, and it almost added to the separation between me and other kids because, of course, teachers think I'm amazing. Teachers love me. I'm communicating in a way that is much more adjacent to an adult in the way I communicate with others verbally. And that I'm so good in school and so respectful. I follow rules because I'm like, you set a rule, that means I do it. I don't understand. It never occurred to me to not follow the rules. So the teachers would love me. You certainly can't. You still don't follow rules. And kids are like, I don't really like that kid. She's weird. So I kind of went through life being like, I'm a little weird. And it just is what it is. And I don't know why. And what I'll do is I'll kind of pick up on what personality traits make me more appealing to other people. And I'll just really do that.
Mm.
Have been doing that my whole life.
Wow.
So then you fast forward to similar story as you. I am in therapy. And I've had several sessions talking about all kinds of things, but there's been several when I'm talking about how it is so frustrating to me that I'll be with my friends and I feel like they're all getting something that I do not get.
Mm.
Or they're all experiencing some sort of emotional response to something. And I'm like, I don't care. Like I don't even know why I should have this reaction to this at all. But it's like it's not just indifference, it is pure confusion.
Mm. Okay.
And that is very frustrating and very like you feel a little bit outside. It feels like something is wrong. Like you
Mm-hmm.
should be getting this and you're not getting this.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way I explained it before is I am now in my 30s. And at this point, I'm approaching my 30s and I'm like, how did everybody else get this manual on how you're supposed to act? But I didn't get my manual. Like, that's not fair. Where's mine? Where is my software upgrade? Where is the installation? Somebody skipped a step before I left the factory, and now I'm confused. And so I remember sitting in the therapy session, and I told my therapist something, and I had been wanting to ask her about this before, but I had so many other things that were so big that I was like, this can wait. We're talking about something, and I can't remember what I said, but she was like, huh, so how do you do with like people using sarcasm?
Mm.
She asked that question, and I knew this is my end. Because what I do know is that it's pretty commonly said that people on the autism spectrum might struggle with sarcasm because the whole thing about sarcasm is that you have to say something like you're dead serious, but you don't mean it. And I was like, I'm okay with it for the most part, probably because my family makes jokes so much that
Mm-hmm.
that's how I grew up. And so I was socializing that way to be able to kind of handle that a little bit more. I said, but it's funny you asked that because I'm pretty sure I have Asperger's. And she was like, it would make sense. That was her reaction to it. It would make
Mm-hmm.
sense. So my first thought was like relief because I'm like, okay, I'm not making this up and I'm not completely wrong. Like someone who is a professional who deals with behavioral therapy in different ways, who like has probably seen a lot of children on the spectrum. I said this to her and it didn't sound like I made this up out of nowhere. But then my next reaction was, well, that's hilarious that her first thing that she said was that would make sense because what do you mean? Like, how, did you think this before when you ain't say nothing? Was you waiting on me to bring it up? Or was it on your list of things to bring up with me later?
Oh Lord.
So it's funny when you said your first thought when you were diagnosed, like, oh yeah, you're like textbook ADHD, that you were like numb and then almost sound like you were grieving something with the sadness that you felt. I immediately felt relieved and vindicated and validated. I was excited. I went home, told my roommate, I said, Jesse, yo, I definitely am autistic. It's not a maybe. Like, I'm definitely autistic. And she was like, okay.
That's jazzy.
I called my mom. I was like, Mom, remember I told you I think I might be autistic? You and Dad were like, making jokes and stuff. Anyway, I talked about it in therapy today, and she said it would make sense. My mom was like, "Well, now you have information. Like you were wondering about this, so now you have that information. So now you can do with it whatever you need or want to do with it." I was like, "Yeah." That's how I felt at first. Afterwards, you start
Mm-hmm.
thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm reflecting more and more on my life, childhood in particular. Childhood is funny because it's kind of tricky because everyone's kind of weird when they're a kid. Like you met kids. They
Yeah.
they be saying stuff that don't really make, they don't know nothing. Like they're just little tiny unfinished people. So to a certain degree, you got to give yourself some leeway anyway, because as a child, you're literally still trying to grow and develop.
Right.
But I did see where there were certain instances in my life where other people around me knew what to do and I did it, and I was like, oh, that's why.
Mm. Mm.
Then I said, well, that's why I still walk into a room and don't know what I'm supposed to do off the bat. Like I'm still like, okay, where am I? Where are we standing? How are there chairs? Are we supposed to sit? Do I go this way or that? How does this restaurant work? Do we go to the counter or do I do, what am I supposed to do? Like that kind of thinking that I'm doing literally every day, every moment.
Wow.
Anything outside of the routine is like, I'm so confused, so lost. So then I started feeling embarrassed. So when you said embarrassed in your story, I was like, why? Because I was curious about why. And for me, it was, oh man, I was really not knowing what's going on. And then I
Mm.
started thinking, how many times did I have a misstep that I didn't even know? Because
Mm.
I only remember the missteps that I know happened because I got some real feedback that it was a misstep. But there are plenty of times people do stuff that we say is quote unquote weird, and we don't say nothing about it. We just
Right.
go, that person's weird. I was like, how many times did this happen to me in my life? Am I just going about life thinking I'm doing something? And baby, you was not doing it. So then I have embarrassment, and then I have anger because I'm
Mm.
angry that if it's so obvious, the more and more research I do on it, it's so obvious. I'm like, how did anybody miss this? How did this keep getting missed? And then I looked that up and I found out it's because I'm black. And that was just like, well, okay. I'm black, I'm a girl. What did you expect, girl? So
Right.
it's that was the general run of emotions I had
Wow.
with that whole process.
So I'm curious about something, like, because you said you felt like confused like all the time in different social situations. How exhausted were you feeling
Always
about
exhausted. I'm
your life?
so tired. So tired. So,
Because
so tired because I'm having to pretend that I know what's going on. Little thing that's called masking. I know what's going on. I know how to do this. Everything is fine. I can be a person that knows how to interact in this situation. It is exhausting. And social situations would be so draining for me.
mm,
But what would happen is because I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm fine. And I would keep pushing through, like, this is fine. I'm going to make it fine. That
mhm,
I would have these periods when I did not like kind of crash and like, I can't do it anymore.
mm,
I would be fully burned out and not knowing why I like can't do anything. I can't go to this thing I go to all the time because I can't look at a person right now. I don't have the
mm.
energy to pretend I know what's going on. I can't do a new thing right now because it's hard enough for me to keep up with how to do the things I do every day. These social situations I have every single day are draining enough. No, I am not going to eat dinner with these people I have just met. I don't want to do that. Can't do it.
Wow. That's so powerful because I don't think we often think about the mental and physical and emotional resources that's needed to
Hmm.
interact with other people
Hmm.
and to do it in a way that is, for lack of a better term, sociably acceptable.
Hmm.
I don't think any of us realize how much time and effort and energy and all of that it takes. And it's even more so when you're talking about someone who is neurodivergent and has to work through all of those mountain like obstacles all day,
Hmm.
every day. It exhausts your
Hmm.
mind, it exhausts you physically. That's all I could hear you when you're saying that. I was just thinking, I was like, God, she had to have been just like, mentally I'm done, physically I'm done. It's the whole thing that goes into pretending, masking, like, hey,
Hmm.
I get it all. I know when to smile, I know when to laugh, I know. Wow. I am really
Hmm.
sorry that you had to have that experience, friend. I mean, yeah.
Well, I don't have any like formal diagnosis by a clinical psychologist, behavioral therapist, anything like that. And that, for me right now, is always the sticking point. And it's mostly the
Mm,
sticking point me against myself.
got it.
Because I'm like, do I really have it? There's always a questioning. Now, when I had this first conversation in therapy, what Dr. A, as you lovingly call her, said to me was, well, I'll be honest with you, most people who are not autistic are not coming into my office saying, I think I'm autistic. That's not typically a thing that's happening.
Right.
She said, and you didn't come up with it out of nowhere. You have been thinking this for years. Like we're talking over a decade at this point that I've
Mm-hmm.
been thinking this might be the case for me. And then seeing how the different things match up, different experiences that have been written about, and being like, oh, wait a minute, that feels very familiar.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, don't feel like self-diagnosis means that it's simply wrong. Because
Right.
my fear was, there was I don't know if it still is, because I don't have like no social media, but I feel like there was a time when everything I saw on YouTube Shorts, which is always coming from TikTok, was people talking about, I am neurodivergent, I have ADHD, I have autism, I have this, and they're just saying this stuff, right? Then people in the comments being like, oh yeah, I do that too. I must also have this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and I'm always a little bit cautious to not be taking on the experience of somebody else.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
like people who have maybe been diagnosed as a child, gone through so much like behavioral therapy to help with different things, maybe they're at a different point on the spectrum and functioning in, I'm even using the word functioning lightly, operating in a world that is designed for neurotypical people. If they've had a harder time than me,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm like, well, am I just taking on this
Mm-hmm.
label, this title that I actually haven't earned, as if I'm supposed to earn it anyway? It's something that when I say out loud, I know it's not correct. It's not the
Yeah.
healthiest way of looking at it, but it is like an internal struggle I have constantly.
Yeah. I mean, and I get that because it's one of those things of it's not so much the earned as in, like I've been through the battles and I've been through the wars and now I'm on to the other
Hmm.
side and I've earned this medal. It really is like, am I stacking up to what this experience equates to? Is mine really at that point where I can say, yeah, I can call myself this?
Hmm.
Am I right in claiming something that I may not be able to rightfully claim? It's
Hmm.
interesting you bring that up, particularly as a Black woman, because that's also in our whole history with racism and all of that kind of stuff too. And that kind of a thing is like,
Hmm.
if am I Black enough to be Black? Am I not Black enough? So, and it's funny how that equates now, or that's now transitioned over into something else like neurodivergence. Like, okay, well, I diagnosed myself, and there's lots of tools out there, just so the listeners know. There are a variety of reputable tools out there where you
Hmm.
can get self diagnosed on the whole spectrum of things related to neurodivergence. So you don't have to necessarily go out and go pay all that money to see a therapist, though I do recommend you do that. But there are tools out there created by that community that says, okay, yes,
Hmm.
you're on the spectrum. So I can see why you're saying, okay, I self-diagnose, but am I really on that level? And my thought process is, if you've identified yourself there, you feel like you have enough of the components to go, yeah, I really am there, then you're there. Then you're there.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
it's not simply like, oh, well, I forget things every day. Oh, I guess I have ADHD. No.
Hmm.
Do you have this, like we talked about in previous episodes? It's compounded, it's much farther. And you were able to determine that, no, this goes much farther than what is probably deemed usual. I don't
Hmm.
necessarily want to say normal, but usual,
Typical. We'll
typical,
go with typical since
typical. Basic. No, I'm just kidding.
And
No.
as a person who had a pumpkin spice latte today, I will not be using the word basic in a way that is negative. I won't do it.
Ma'am.
And I'll have one tomorrow too. I said it.
Well, I guess the good thing is that by the time this goes to air, it'll be pumpkin spice madness. But see, you're ahead of the game already. Look at you.
Very rarely does that work out for me. But
Oh, okay. I got you. So let me ask you this. So when you shared this, particularly like with your parents, if you don't mind discussing, so when you shared it with your parents, what was their reaction, and then what was your reaction to their reaction?
so if I roll back to before I had this conversation in therapy, I had taken, there was like an online assessment that was through one of like the reputable organizations for autism. I can't recall which one it is right now, but the assessment is like, it takes you like an hour to complete.
Mm,
And and it asks you similar kinds of questions over and over again about how do you react in certain situations, how do you feel with this, how do you think about this. And I just took it mostly thinking it was going to tell me like, girl, calm down, like you're not. And then I took it and I scored so high. So to put it into perspective, if the highest score you can get is 50, I had like 47.
okay.
If you're like above 20 something, they say you should probably seek out a formal diagnosis with a clinician. And then I was like, is that really? I don't know. So I had some friends of mine to take it, more than one friend. And they were scoring like 5. I'm not kidding, shot 5. And I said, oh, oh, wow. Okay. Ooh, ooh, okay. Like that's when I think I might have froze because I was like, I was calculating in my head, like, wait a minute.
Looking
That
like that meme where everybody's sitting there calculating.
the meme with that lady and the numbers
uh,
around her head. That was
yes.
me. So for some reason, I like immediately called my parents, like, yo, I took this assessment. Like, I've kind of always thought this. I took this assessment and I scored very, very high. My parents immediately started going into jokes. Just like, girl, you ain't, they laughing, they cracking jokes. You know how black people do, man. We make a
Yes.
joke out of everything. But that was not the moment for that for me. I did not need that at that time.
Yes.
And I got upset. And it got
Mhm.
a little bit awkward because I don't think that they thought I was like calling them with no serious information. And then they're like, I don't know what to do with this. And then my mom tries to, kind of smooth it over a little bit. But I was like, all right, all right, y'all, I'm going to go. So
Wow.
that conversation happened before I brought it up in therapy. Brought it up in therapy, get a much different reaction, one that's a little bit more validating for me. So when I
Hmm.
called my mom, it was more so of me being like, hey, look what I found out.
Yeah.
Look what I learned. And my mom was just like, cool. I'm really glad that you found that out for yourself. Like she was genuine, but it was just like, eh. And I have not had a conversation with my father about it at all.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. For reasons.
Hmm.
That's a different conversation. That might be a different
Hmm.
podcast, friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to put it out there. I love my parents to death. I have great relationships with them, but everybody ain't perfect. So,
Right. Same here. Same here. Because
hmm
Lord,
hmm
that yeah, we're gonna have to have that whole parent conversation because that was something else for me too.
hmm
The
So that was
responsibility.
kind of the conversation with them.
Okay, I see that. So let me ask, how do you feel your life has changed now that you have some validation to the feelings that you once had that maybe I am
hmm
neurodivergent.
hmm So one of the things that Dr. A suggested was I read this book called Unmasking Autism.
Mm,
It was written by, I think this person might be like a clinician. I know they have like a PhD. They've done the whole thing and they've made their whole career about autism specifically, but ADHD, PTSD, which from the book they wrote, the perspective is that those things are all included in neurodivergence, which was very interesting to me that PTSD was included in that. But
Right.
it was very eye-opening for me. I listened to the audiobook and sometimes I would have to pause, rewind, listen to it again because the experiences that people were talking about felt so relatable to me.
Mm.
And I said, you know what, I'm not finna do no more? This masking thing. I'm not doing it. I'm not pretending anymore. I'm not putting on
Mm-hmm.
a show. Um, I know I always say you be laughing at me and I don't know why, but I'm not putting on a thing to be like, I'm the funny one. This can make my role in this social situation work. I'm not doing it. If you laugh at me, okay, cool. But I'm not out here. I am not the court jester. I am not making you laugh just so I can make y'all feel more comfortable with my presence in this room. I'm not doing it. And it also, I pay more attention to what kind of social battery do I actually have?
Mm.
What ways do I need to, like, if I want to participate in something on a weekend, cool. That might mean during the week I can't be doing too much because I really want to be able to be fully present for this experience happening in the future. So I
Right.
can't pretend that I have it. I can't
Mm.
pretend that I got it. I don't pretend I know what's going on. I will ask a question like, hey, I don't know what that means. What is that? And then you tell me. I think I've become a better friend to people in the sense that because I understand the level to which I am unable to just like read a room, so to speak,
Yeah.
read people, so to speak, because I know that's not a thing I'm doing, I'm more likely to ask a question from the beginning, like, hey, what are you thinking about this? Because
Yeah.
I don't know. So if you tell me, then I'll know. Then I can support you in whatever way that I
Right.
know how, or whatever way that you need me to do.
Right.
So I think my life is like I'm less exhausted. I'm less mentally
Good.
exhausted because I get to just be myself. I get to
Yes.
be who I actually am. I
Mm-hmm.
can work on being the best me I want to be in so many ways, but I'm not going to be a pretend me, just an actual good me.
Okay, so we're gonna pause that for a second because and what I mean by that is I want our listeners to what you said was so powerful and so deep. I may have to explore that even on my other podcast, but it's so powerful and so deep because we as Black and Brown women spend a lot of time, have spent a lot of time, I will say this, assimilating into beauty standards that were not meant and
mm,
designed for us,
mm-hmm,
assimilating into work standards that were not meant and designed for us, just life's institutions in general, all these different things. And when we finally reach a point, and I think that's why, I just want to deviate for just a quick second. I think that's
mm-hmm,
why oftentimes when you hear women say they woke up at 40 and 50 years old, at 40 years old, you wake up and realize, I'm not going to live for anybody else. I'm living for me. At
mm-hmm.
50, you wake up and you was like, I just don't even care anymore. It's like a whole nother level. You literally wake up just like, I'm done. I'm done. I don't know what 60 is gonna bring. Lord knows, child, I don't know what 60 is gonna bring. But I literally, when I woke up at 40, I was like, and so I say that to say because when it came to your neurodivergence, you hit 40 and you hit 50. And the
mm,
40 was, I'm not living for everybody else anymore. It's too exhausting
mm-hmm,
because it is. And then you also hit your 50, which is, I don't even care what other people think. This is who I am. And love it or list it, as I say, you're going to love it or you're going to let it go. And
mm-hmm,
so I think that we as women struggle with that throughout our entire life, especially Black and Brown women, because we are taught at a young age to put on the cape, to put on the mask. We're taught to carry the loads. We are taught, these are all the things that our ancestors did to get us here. And so we have all of this piled on top of us. And I talk about this all the time about generational trauma. It leaves a marker on our DNA. There's
mm-hmm,
literal studies out there that talks about how generational trauma, not generational curses, two different things.
mm.
Two
Mm-hmm.
different things totally. But generational trauma literally leaves a marker on our DNA. So we're carrying the weight of our ancestors literally within our bodies. And it normally takes, some scientists believe it takes up to 9 generations to even come close to being removed. And then you're carrying the weight that you've carried in your life. And then the weight of societies and all this kind of stuff. And that's why when we wake up at 40 and 50, we strip a lot of that away and just say it doesn't even matter anymore. And so what you did, at least in this portion of your life, was say,
Mm-hmm.
I'm stripping away all of that because this is who I am. Yeah, there's a label for it, but this is who I am. Period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I love that about you. And one of the things, yeah, you do crack me up all the time. And I know that you're sitting there like, why are you laughing at me? Because I'm dead serious. And you will say that to me. You're like, why are you laughing, friend? I'm very serious. And I'm like, because it's how you said it. It's how you looked when you said it. I know the intent behind it. There's like so many layers there. And the one thing that I love about you, and I say this all the time, you are so honest. And that's one of the things I love and respect about you. You do not play around. One, because you don't know how to play those games. You don't know how to dance the dance,
I
right?
literally don't know how, so I don't try.
So, and I love that because the sad side part is when you are capable of doing that, you do learn how to play the games and dance the dance, and you learn to do it well. And then it takes even longer to strip down and take off those masks because they become such a part of you. You know,
Mm.
it's almost like they like if you were wearing a literal like paper mache mask, it starts becoming attached to your face because you're so
Mm.
used to it. And you just went and said, you know what, I don't have to wear this, and you were able to take it off and put it down. And so that's what I love about you, because you are going to be on, and you have been very brutally honest with me about that. I shouldn't say brutal because that's not the word. No, because it's not the word. We're just so used to using certain phrases, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But you have been very honest with me about things. You've been very honest about your concerns. You've been honest about how you feel. I know that when you are like, hey, I didn't get my hug today. And I'm like, okay. I don't assume anything about you, but I know that when
Mm.
there's certain things that you say, or like when I got this one contract I've been trying to get and you gave me a card for that and stuff, I
Mm-hmm.
knew that really came from your heart, and I knew what it took. Some people do it just because that's the cool thing to do. You're supposed to give your friend a. I know when I get certain things from you, or if you say, hey, I didn't get my hug today, and I'm like, oh, she really wanted a hug today, for whatever reason she
Mm-hmm.
needed a hug today. I know that that's what you mean, because you don't dance around. And I love that. I love that. And I know it took a lot of work to get there. And I'm glad that you are comfortable literally in your own skin in that
Mm.
way.
I appreciate that because I think without me realizing it, I was concerned that people would not like the actual me.
Mm,
And then I decided I don't care. Like, it's not that I don't care, like I don't want to be liked at all.
yeah.
That's not true. Everyone wants to be liked at all because we're social people.
Right.
But if you don't like the actual me, then there's no point to this anyway.
Right.
So I was like, it might be a little bit weird. Because I remember being like, yeah, I'm not pretending to do this and this and this anymore. And Dr. A's like, yeah, I love that. And she was like, and don't be surprised if people are a little bit like confused in the
Mm,
beginning because they're not maybe used to this. And she is right. I definitely have had people to be like, hey, are you okay? Because I'm not like being bubbly cracking jokes. And I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Because this is like actual me. The other people's actually not okay. That lady was not well. She was so
right.
depressed and anxious. She ain't had no medicine. She was not doing too good. And then on top of it, she was trying to pretend she was doing good. And now I'm like, I'm medicated. I'm chilling. I have worked through a lot of different things. I
Mm-hmm.
have a better idea of who I am as a person and who I would like to be and how I like to grow in different ways. And like, this is kind of it. I'm not pretending to do nothing. This
I
is me.
heard that.
So that means certain parts of my temperament are confusing to people. I'm not a very excitable person. I could meet a goal that I've been working towards for a while. People are like, are you excited? And I'm like, I mean, yeah. I'm like, yeah. Like, because what I actually feel is like thankfulness, appreciation.
Ah.
I'm happy that I was able to get to a particular place I was trying to get to. And I appreciate the assistance I got in getting to that place. But like, am I excited? No, because that's not the emotion that I feel. I did not know you were laughing. I did.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you are not trying to be funny, but you're just like, no, that's not what I was feeling.
That's not the
Oh
word I
my
feel. For me to be like, I am excited. Okay.
yeah.
One of the best experiences I had, I went and I saw BTS in Las Vegas.
Yes.
I was excited to do that.
I can't wait
That's
to see you
not
excited.
that's not that's not a feeling I have all the time. And quite frankly,
Mm,
where I live emotionally speaking and temperament wise is pretty in the middle. So
mm.
I don't even feel good feeling too much of anything, good or bad. Like
Wow.
even like I told I told Jazz the other day, I don't want to feel your joy because that's too much too. Like I I said it, and before I could even think about it, I said it. And after I said it, I was like, okay, that is ridiculous. Like that, I can see why she's laughing at me while I said that. But like, what I mean is, I don't like people who describe themselves as extremely empathetic people. I'm like, that sounds exhausting to feel everybody else's feelings like that all the time.
Oh, it
In
can
some
be.
ways, in some ways, it like is a con for me because I'm like struggling to understand another person, but in other ways it's helpful because I am not eating everyone else's emotions
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know how to do that. It doesn't come to me naturally in that way. I can probably do sympathy a little bit better than I can do empathy.
I get that. So I'll say
Mhm.
yes. And
Mhm.
you also are good in the crisis situation because you're so even keeled in that sense. Like
Mm.
some people go to one extreme or the other. So, like, if I were to call my husband and say, "Hey, X, Y, and Z just happened," he's gonna go to the stratosphere. Like he's
Mm.
just out there. If I called you and said that, you'd be like, "Okay," and you start going through a logical checklist because you're process oriented. So you're gonna start going
Mhm.
through a logical checklist about blah 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 blah, and then that kind of brings a person back down to reality, so to speak. It kind of brings them out of that stratosphere and go, okay, here are the things I need to think about. And maybe these weren't the things I was thinking about that I needed to think about, you know?
Mm.
And to me, that logical thinking is also comes into play. Like you've been there through a lot of things that our family's been through, and you will
Mhm.
logically go, this is what I can do. You was like, I can come sit with you and watch TV.
Mhm.
I can get you a meal. I can do this or I can do that. Like you literally say this is what I can do that's within your bandwidth, but
Mhm.
that is also practical and useful for the person that's going to be on the receiving end. And I love that because as an empathetic person, yes, it is very hard to shut down other people's emotions. In crisis mode, I'm great. I'm there. I go like you when in crisis mode comes about, I'm in process check. But then the other side of me kicks in later on, which is I'm exhausted.
Mhm.
I'm tired. I've expended a lot of energy. So there's a lot that I can learn from you in that regard. But that's what we all love and appreciate about you is you're going to be honest. You do let us know where you stand and where you are and what you're thinking and feeling. Whereas if other people are going to try to hide it and play it and fake it and or people please and all that stuff, you're like, no,
Mhm.
this is where I am.
Mhm.
And yes, I might miss some of the emotion in all of this. Okay, that's fine. Tell me what you need me to do. You
Mhm.
literally said that. Just tell me what you need me to do. And I
Mhm.
love that. And if I don't know, you be like, never mind. I got you. Because you've already gone through a checklist in your head anyway. You just waiting
Mhm.
to see if I'm going to say something on that checklist. It's all good.
I said that you think in thought bubbles. I think in outlines. Like this
Mm.
is the topic, here's the things, and here are the parts of it. Okay, there's that. But I go in the order, and if you try to get me out of that order, I'm so confused. I'm like, how do we get? I was going A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I don't know what alphabet you learned that had you going to Z before we got to H. But all right.
Like,
So,
okay, I'm gonna try to go with it, but I'm still gonna go back to H at some point. No, that's fair. And in your thought process and everything. So how I'd be interested in understanding from like a work perspective over the
mm,
years, pre-diagnosis, post-diagnosis, like how has your brain and the way you think and function helped you in your work? How has it may have, now that you're looking back, you're like, there was an opportunity for growth there when it comes
mm.
to your work experience?
So I'll start with what I think is an obvious plus. So, like I work in accounting and finance realm, you have to be so organized, so logical to do that successfully. And my background in college, it's not exactly that. So I've had to do a lot of learning like at work, but because I'm so process oriented, I'm like, it don't matter what we're doing. I just need to know what the process is, and I can learn what to do in these
Hmm.
situations. It's helped me to like be an asset. I document a lot of processes most of the time. I've never left a job without leaving them a book on how to do stuff. Mostly because that
Wow.
book was for me. So, and that includes whether I left voluntarily or not. But I, which is a story for another day. I, because I'm like, we should be doing this. We should be learning from past
Hmm.
experiences. If this keeps happening every time, maybe that's because there's a step here that no one knows we're supposed to be doing. Let's make sure we have this written down in the process so we stop having this thing happen because it is inconveniencing me. This is getting on my nerves. And I also don't like things. I am a perfectionist in an actual sense. Growing up, I thought that word was like just a colloquial word. It wasn't
Mm.
until I started therapy that I realized, no, that's like a real thing. Perfectionism is a real thing that affects people and how they interact in day to day life, how they exist going about their lives. I didn't know that. So all of that makes me very good at my job. The parts where the way my brain works has been a challenge is usually socially, I would say.
Mm.
So starting work right out of college, first of all, they tell you in college that y'all finna change the world. Y'all finna make everything better. And you get to work, you don't know how to work the printer. You don't know what a bathroom at. You're not finna change nothing yet. But that's not the way that we were kind of being groomed and taught in school.
Right.
So I can't understand why, if I said this makes sense, let's do this, why we not just doing that? Like,
Mm.
I
Hmm.
present this idea, it makes sense. They think it makes sense too. Why we not doing that? Because I didn't understand ego, or I didn't understand like there's an expected hierarchy in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it like we all work here. Do any of us own this company? No. So it never occurred to me that even though I have an idea, because you might be my manager, I got to be careful with
Right.
how I bring an idea to you.
Right.
Or maybe I'm stuck on a particular aspect of something. I'm like, but this is how it's supposed to be done. But this is how it's supposed to be done. But this is how it's supposed to be done. And everyone else can like go into all the nuances of things. And I'm like, but this is how it's supposed to be done. And I'm getting frustrated because y'all told me this works this way. So now you want to go talk to such and such boss about this thing because you don't want to do this thing. I'm like, but he the one who told her to tell us to tell you this. Why are we going in circles? Again, I didn't understand the relationship aspects of what happens in the
Right.
workplace.
Okay.
Part of that is just a function of youth. When you're first entering the workplace, you don't know what you don't know. But
Right.
I feel like it was harder for me to like actually catch on to what's happening.
Wow. That was really powerful because it's hard enough navigating, like you said, ego, office politics, hierarchies,
Hmm.
and all of those sorts of things just in general. But then when you add on, I never thought about perfectionism as being a legit real thing until you just said it. And what I mean by that is that, like you were saying, like there are people out there that it's like, no, it has to be absolutely perfect. You think of that as
Hmm.
OCD, right? People will say, no, that's probably OCD, that you've got to do it. Everything's got to line up perfectly. Not thinking that there are real people out there that's like, no, If it's not done this way, it's not perfect. And I don't know any other way I can't deviate from this. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're in the workplace where, for the best way I can describe it is that there's shades of gray and you operate in black or white.
Yeah, black and white. And it's a thing that I know does not serve me well in every situation. And it's a thing that I've had to really, throughout my 20s, I think I had to learn that. And I
Mm,
think I'm a little bit better at understanding it now, but it's something that I'm probably always going to be having to like check myself with. Like I'll ask my friends who have an ability to think in shades of gray, like, am I tripping? This sounds like this. Should it not be that? And sometimes I'll get like it might be this and this. I'm like, all right, I don't get it, but seems legitimate, so that's fine.
mm-hmm. Wow. The amount of work that you had to do throughout your life. Like your brain should have been burning calories the way that it was mentally exercising, like on a daily basis, like for real. Because I still go back to that thought of we just don't realize how much work that we put into trying to fit into what people consider as typical,
Hmm.
whether it's behavior, words, thoughts, actions, that sort of a thing. So if there's someone out there listening, which is likely the case, that relates to your story in some shape, form, or fashion, what would be like one piece of advice that you would give them from this point?
I should have prepared for that question. I should have known you would have asked it. I think it's probably a piece of advice that I tell everybody: please go to therapy, because I am definitely one of those people who thinks everybody should go to therapy. You don't have to have trauma to go to therapy. I
Yeah.
think a lot of us don't know how to work through different emotions in general and process different experiences we've had. Because if you're thinking, that story sounds familiar or relatable, or I have this friend who went through this, I don't know. I didn't get to this point until I went to therapy, which was for a completely different reason.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a net positive anyway by going, and you'll be surprised what kind of more information you'll get to help you to better understand yourself and to navigate through even finding the answers you need about this. Because even when I said, okay, if I want to get a formal diagnosis, how do I do that?
Mm-hmm.
She knew how to do that. Like she knew who to refer me to
Mm-hmm.
get that done. So that's my biggest thing. And then my second piece of advice I'm just gonna throw in there is you probably are different and it's okay. Just know that it's okay. And be
Very.
okay. Like be able to accept that and don't be afraid to be like, I'm a little bit different. It's not the
Mm-hmm.
end of the world.
I agree. And I think that's something we'll explore in a future episode too, because by some people's standards are considered different because we're black and brown. We're already
Mm.
considered different because we're women. And now we're talking about having a label, if you will, added on to that of being neurodivergent. That makes us even more different. And you know what? I fully embrace all of it, and I'm glad you embraced all of it, and I'm glad you embraced the real you, and as allowing the world to see the real you, because she's just as lovable, if not more so, than the other you.
And it's funny when you mentioned age because I distinctly remember at a certain point I was like, I am not going into my 30s still living like this. Like I remember saying that in my head and probably out loud to nobody at some point in time. Like I'm not doing it. No. My real adulthood is, in my opinion, just getting started. I am not going into this still living like this. This is not it. This is not fun. I don't want it. I don't like it. So let me do some work so that I can get to where I actually want to
Yes.
be.
Yes. And you're living proof that it's not too late to make those decisions and to make those
Hmm.
changes so you can have a happier life. 30 is still young. And I was like you, I felt like by the time you're 25, people say you're grown, but you're still young enough to do stupid stuff and people aren't gonna,
Hmm.
be mad at you for it. But you hit 30, you're considered grown. You're still young, but they
Hmm.
still consider you grown. So now you should be doing
Hmm.
grown things. And so I love the fact that you took ownership of the woman that you want to become. You took ownership of the woman that you were then, And you're like, and at this point forward, I want to be my best self in every way possible. And I think
Mm-hmm.
every woman reaches that point, hopefully sooner than later, but it's so liberating when you do, and so
Mm-hmm.
empowering when you do. And that's what I'm hearing, and what you're saying is you empowered yourself to become the woman you wanted to become, and that meant embracing who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that is power in and of itself, embracing
Mm-hmm.
who you really are.
The whole reason why I even went and ended up asking this question to a therapist, because I was in therapy for depression. My first experience with depression probably happened when I was 17 years old.
Mm,
I didn't go to therapy until I was 27.
mm,
So I think about how it was 10 years of my life that was almost taken from me because of conditions and not knowing what I don't know. And
mm-hmm.
so I think that's why, to reiterate my advice about seek out the help that you need, because I think about how things might have been different if I was able to get that help sooner
Yeah.
and like was open to getting that help sooner.
Yes.
So I was definitely one of those people who was like, yeah, I think therapy is a real thing, but I'm cool. And I was
Yep.
not cool. So I think being open to it is what helped me to get where I am now. And
Mm-hmm.
so by all means, it's never too late, but the sooner the better.
I agree. I agree. And on that note, I just want to say thank you so much. I feel like I have a much better and deeper understanding of you as a woman, as my
Mhm.
friend, and I feel so privileged. So thank you very much for sharing your story and where you are, where you've been, and where you're going. I'm looking
Mm.
forward to watching you grow.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Well, that concludes another episode. What did you think? Let us know on IG, Threads, or YouTube. We can be found at BGVG Squirrel on all platforms.